So the key thing about sets is that when you add a duplicate item, you only end up with one copy of that item in the set. And we're going to look a little bit at that behavior and see how that works. So I have two classes here. I have one called book, and book just has a string that's the title of the book and an integer that's the edition of the book. And then this class is very simple. It just has a constructor and a toString method. And then in the library class, we're going to look at the behavior of different kinds of sets. So the first set we have is a hash set that contains strings, and it's just called strings. And the second hash set that we have is called books, and it contains objects of type book. So in the first case, I make 4 different string objects, and I add them to the hash set and print out the hash set. Similarly, I make 4 different book objects, add them to the books hash set, and then I'm going to print that out. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. So we see that we get the 4 different strings that I added to the strings hash set and the 4 different books, so everything looks fine. Notice that hash sets don't store the items in order, not in, alphabetical order or in the order that you add them. It's just completely arbitrary. Okay, so that's looking good. Now what I'd like to do is we're going to make another string, string 5, and it's going to be the same as one of the existing strings. So we'll make it be rows. And I'm going to add this to our strings hash set and print that out. Okay, and we'll run this. And we see that because I added rows to the hash set, but rows was already in there, I don't get a duplicate entry for that, so the hash set looks exactly the same as it did before I added anything. Now let's make a new book object. And we'll make that the same as one of the existing books. And again, we'll print that out. Okay, so notice that this behaves differently. When I added a duplicate item to the strings hash set, I ended up with just the same hash set. When I add a new book object, I have 2 copies of the Frankenstein first edition book in my hash set. So it didn't recognize that this new Frankenstein first edition book is the same as the one that I already had. That's not good because that's not how hash sets are supposed to act. So the problem is that when Java sees that the hash set contains strings, it already knows, because string is a built-in object, built-in class in Java, it knows how to determine if 2 strings are equal. But I made the book object myself, or the book class myself over here. And because I made it and it's not built in, Java doesn't know how to determine if 2 books are equal. So it uses the address of the book objects in memory, which is a default behavior, but that's not what we want in this case. So I need to tell it how to determine if 2 books are the same book, and I do this by overriding the equals and hash code method. Eclipse makes this really nice because it's built in. So I can go to source and generate hash code and equals, and I can click on the fields that need to be the same for 2 different books to be considered the same book. So I will say that both the edition and the title need to be the same. I'm going to click on OK, and it generates this code right here. Then I'm going to go to the library thing and run this again, and we see that now we get the behavior that we want. We only have 1 edition of Frankenstein in our library. If I change this to a second edition and run the program again, now I get 2 copies of Frankenstein, the first edition and the second edition, and this is because in the book class we told it to consider both of those fields, the edition field and the title field, when determining if 2 things are the same. So if either one of them is different, it's considered a different book. And that's all for this video.